You are listening to NUFC Talk Radio, the voice of the Toon Army. Live daily on the website, on YouTube,
on DAB,
and on every online radio directory.
NUFC Talk,
the voice of the Toon Army.
Good morning, good morning, good morning, good morning.
Indeed. Welcome, one and all, to NUFC Talk Radio with myself, the host, Geordie Yam Yam. We've got Super Mac Mackay, and obviously we've got the mighty win this morning, ready for Eddie's presser. I hope you're all doing fantastically well on this Friday, the eve of what will some say, obviously, the leveller of where we are within the Premier League against the high flyers, Manchester City, at the Eddie Howe 8 p.m. kickoff. Strange time, if I'm honest with you, for all those travelling fans. Again, it just seems Newcastle just seem to be picked out of a hat for some crazy times, some crazy kickoff times. Not for me, though. I mean, like I say, I just look at it and say, well, any money that the lads can get from broadcast, I know it doesn't come necessarily to Newcastle, but the more they're in the limelight, the more, hopefully, the more sponsorship they can get. How are we, Ian? You good this morning?
Yep, all good, all good. Bright-eyed, bushy-bearded. Bright-eyed and bushy-tailed, yes. Looking forward to it. Shame Arsenal drew against Wolves. I think that just gives Man City a little bit of an extra appetite to make sure they get their 3 points to close down Arsenal. But I'm quite buoyed by how we've performed in the last 3 away matches. I'm hopeful.
I think conversely that the fact that their fate's in their own hands now. If they win out all their games, they win the league. And that's the first time they've been in that position. I don't think they've been in that position this season at all. And you know what we are like? When we've got a match that looks comfortably winnable, and if we win it, we're going to go top 4. And we always bottle it. Man City have not got that track record recently, of course. They tend to go on a 14-match winning run at the end of the season. But the way this season has gone for them, could this be the season that they lose that magic? And could this be just the right time to play them and give them a bloody nose?
Yeah, I mean, like I said, it's a strange season. And I know the lads, we're going to be coming with a new show looking at some of the other Premier League teams soon. But I mean, for me, it's a looking at this one. I wouldn't say it's the year of the underdogs. It just seems the year of sometimes the unachievable, where you're, if you were a betting man, and I'm not, so I'm talking other. When you look at bankers on, a sheet to bet on, there's been a lot of people lost a lot of money this year, and I would imagine there's been a lot of people that like to swing it the other way and bet on the outsiders that have probably made a lot of money.
Yeah, well, that was the old adage, was there? If you back an English Premier League club 6-1 or bigger, if you'd done that since the Premiership started, you'd be a millionaire now with a pound stake. And I'm not talking about accumulators. I'm just talking about every match where a 6-1 or bigger is won. If you'd bet all 10 games, that particular round that they call it now, the number of times there's upsets in the Prem is nobody's business. I mean, I'm talking about huge, 14-1s for like Bolton Wanderers at Arsenal and things like that.
Yeah, I mean,
it's a question of picking them. That's the hard bit.
3-0
That's the
Chelsea.
thing. Yeah. I mean, it is very, very difficult. And like I say, Geordie Dan's in the chat there saying we've already beat them this season. It's one of them, isn't it? You know, on the day, depending on what Newcastle team turn up, if I'm honest with you, it does make me laugh though when I keep looking at Eddie Howe, his presser. I wanted to bring it up yesterday, and like I say, I just didn't have time. When he keeps on saying we've been playing this system for years, we just have different personnel working within the same system that look different. And it was an interesting. And again, this morning before the press, I was having a bit of a deep dive in what was out there. If anybody had seen and spotted, I don't know whether you remember when I put the team up where they had the triangles from the lads at fullbacks coming into the midfield, supporting them left side of midfield and right side of midfield, and they all linked up together. Well, in actual fact, somebody has done it again versus Karabag, and you can see quite clearly that Voltamada was playing left side of the three at times, even though with the fluidity of the team and the way the game was, I suppose, predominantly in the final third, in the offensive third, you didn't actually notice a formation, a system of play, because it looked very much as if we just attacked the half space in numbers. But yeah, somebody has spotted that Eddie Howe had used the same system, even though it looked different with the personnel that was using it. Before we continue with the show, we are literally around about 12 to 13 minutes away from
Just in
Eddie's
terms
presser.
of what Geordie Dan said, we've already beat them this season. Yeah, we did it, but when we beat them, if you remember, we had both full backs, full contingency of centre backs, and two fit in inverted commas strikers. That was the one of the 3 games this season that we had that available to us, with Livramento and Hall both playing, and 2 strikers, and choice of 3 centre halves, and that's got something to do with it. You know, everybody says you can't blame injuries, and you can't. You know, for to say that 1 injury or 2 injuries is going to decimate your season just proves how weak your squad is. But, you know, bear in mind also that from the start of the season, we've had those 5 new signings that we've spent the alleged 250 million on. You know, forgetting the fact that we've actually sold the best centre forward in the country, allegedly. That's what we can do when we had that available.
Yeah, I mean, like I say, for me, Manchester City come as a formidable opponent, and yet, you know, there's a part of me that wants Haaland to play rather than Mamouche. We seem to struggle against Mamouche a lot more than we do Haaland. Haaland's been pretty, well, stationary against the Newcastle defence. So for me, I hope he's fit. I mean, I did come off the FA Cup game against Salford at half time. Again, whether that was due to a knock, they said he'd taken a hit in the papers, but I'm not sure whether that is true or not, or whether they were literally just keeping him fresh for this game. But as they've had a number of games to prepare for the Newcastle, as they haven't had a midweek game, I should say, they should be very fresh compared to our lads. But again, momentum is the key, isn't it? You know, confidence seems to be really high at the moment, and for me, it's about just going and playing your game and taking it to them a little bit and see what happens. Again, it just seems as though we've again a team of flip floppers, as you like, couldn't hit a barn door, and now all of a sudden it seems as though that barn door is wide open. And the floodgates are there. But again, you know, we're up against. I don't think it's the best defence that Manchester City have ever had. You know, that's the thing for me.
Certainly not.
Yes,
That's why they want to live Livramento.
yeah, well, that's what I'm saying. There's certainly chinks in the armour that you can get into. Like I say, before we get into the presser and we talk deeply on Eddie's comments. I'm sure there's going to be comments in
Yeah,
there that
bingo card ready.
yeah, the standard, as you see, type of adhere. But if you want to look at what he's going to be saying, then throw it in the comments if you're listening. I also want to ask everybody that is listening on DAB radio across the Northeast, whenever you get the opportunity, if you could, very kindly, and I say don't do it while you're driving, please smash the like button on YouTube when you go back and watch it again. Subscribe if you haven't already, and obviously ring the bell for future content, because it certainly helps us as a channel to get further forward. So, and I want to thank everybody already that's helping us push this channel forward, because you've been amazing. Mark Douglas has put something on X this morning about we worked hard for the CSR, CSCR that's coming our way, and apparently it's something that the owners and board worked hard to achieve. They didn't want PSR, they wanted this new system because within the new rules, they believe it's more achievable at Newcastle. And again, I think we're still under a lot of scrutiny when it comes to wages and things like that. And then he goes on to talk about how the new rules help the Newcastle ambitions for Project 2030. He's talking about the fan base. It can fill the enhanced St James's Park if that's what they decide to do, and redevelop part of the ground. Excuse me. And then it goes on what it means regarding the summer transfers. I don't know whether you guys had seen the picture of Bruno Guimaraes in his chamber, his oxygen chamber, watching the match against Karabakh in Baku. It was a strange watch, if I'm honest with you. But it's like I say, he's in this glass chamber. Well, it looks like an oxygen chamber to me. I mean, it could be, something different, but it certainly looks like an oxygen chamber. And again, pure oxygen does help.
Hasn't been down to Chinatown, has he?
Does help the injuries heal a little bit better, and works well with the. I mean, I thought at first it was a cryo chamber, but it's a full body. Like I say, lying down in a style of coffin, a glass coffin. That oxygen chamber used to be owned by Michael Jackson, says Shamrock. I'm hoping he gets a little bit more. What's the name of the DAB channel? Said,
It's NUFC Talk Radio. So just go to your station list, search it. But it is in the Tyne and Wear area only. You get it in parts of South Northumberland, West Northumberland, and North Durham. But that's about it.
Yeah, exactly.
It's great at Newcastle, Gateshead, kind of Washington, not as far as they who shall not be named. Interestingly, you were saying about Haaland. 9 games he's played against Newcastle now. 1 goal.
Yeah, that's what I say. It's Mamouche that seems to be our little Achilles heel. He seems to be linking up play very well. Just going to have a quick look at some of the lads in the chat. Sir General Greatness 9572 says, morning. I think the way Eddie has set the lads up, we look a lot more effective. If we play like we have been away, I fancy us to get something. Now, I agree with him. I do. I think the lads maybe have turned a little corner for this season. Like I said, still a lot to prove on the field of play, I must admit. But as you said it before, Ian, it looks healthier. It looks a lot better. And like I say, a little bit more. Do you think then, is it a little bit more forward thinking regarding the lads that have filled in the void for not Tonali, Bruno and Miley, if you like? They're a bit more aggressive on the front foot. Obviously, we've had to infill with Voltamada, who's prolifically a 9, 10, false 9, whichever one you want to call him. He's done well on in that midfield offensive role. More of an 8 than a 6, even though Eddie doesn't play with a 6. I think the lads have adjusted to their new style of football really well.
I think it's pace, isn't it? I think having 3 fast lads up front and interchanging. Alanga switching across to the left and coming inside more often. Barnes always coming inside. With Gordon running behind, there's just much more. There's much more to aim at, and the ball has moved a lot faster. Voltemada's probably got a better eye for a pass. I think Ramsey's ball carrying and passing skills and Willock's ball carrying and passing skills are enhanced by the fact they've got a lot of choice. When they get forward, we can play more forward balls, and I think that's what we need. We need that speed on the transition, and City's defence are there to be got at. You know, if Diaz plays, he's coming back from quite a long injury. Gahey, I know, is a magic bullet in the January transfer window, but let's be honest, Gahey has played in defences for Crystal Palace that we've put 4s and 5s past, so he can't be all that.
No.
Yeah, I'm quite hopeful, but I think what the key thing is to play with 4 at the back and not 5. A lot of the time we turn up at City trying not to lose, and it never works. So I do think we should go trying to win. Let's get a bit on the front foot. That's when we are best.
I agree.
And I know that's hard sometimes because you just don't get the ball. But if we do pick the ball up, let's just have a few long throws out to the touchline and move it quickly, and not try and play away backwards and forwards and sideways to try and move up across the halfway line. Speed's the key, I think. And then
there was a decent little pull in the Athletic, and again they say Athletic have pulled back the curtain on why Eddie Howe was so determined to bring Jacob Ramsey to Tyneside. While some fans were sceptical of the summer move, it turns out the coaching staff were actually baffled by the early criticism, seeing Ramsey not just as another physical runner, but as a rare hybrid of powerhouse athlete and high-level technician. The 24-year-old reportedly chose Newcastle specifically because Howe envisioned him returning to the left side number 8 role where he feels most lethal. And it's a move that's already catching the highest eyes in the game. And according to the rumour, Thomas Tuchel has name-checked him as being right on the verge of a senior call-up last year, providing just how much stock the experts put in his potential. I'm still not 100% sure about this lad. I think he's got talent, and he certainly brings something different to the Newcastle side. Do you feel with the Joe Linton injury and things like that, with the likes of Ramsey now coming in, who's a different style of player, has given Newcastle, and again, it's took a while for him to get settled in. Do you think it gives Newcastle a different ammunition type of situation in the forward-thinking vein? Because, like I say, he's very much an athlete. He's very much a box-to-box player. And he's certainly got the technical awareness around him. But again, I think for me, he still needs to be a little sharper. And again, maybe that will come in time. That injury probably held him back a little longer. But I still think he needs to be a little bit sharper in and around the midfield for it to work perfectly.
Well, I think GS7...
It's all a learning curve.
GS7 is being prematurely written off, I believe, by a lot of people. I think he's yes, he's certainly becoming injury prone. But I think when GS7's at his best, it takes a bit of replacing.
But is that just the physicality side of it, though, Win? I mean, he's a stopper. We know he's a stopper. But do you lose the technical ability regarding keeping the ball moving? Oh, we're here. We're ready to go.
Yeah, we're going.
We'll listen to Eddie Howe. We'll come back to you very soon.
Yeah, just one question, lads. It's a shame.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome back. We'll start with Keith today, please.
Hi, Eddie. Nice to see you.
Nice to see you, Keith.
How are you and the lads feeling after the trip? I guess, given the result, they probably could have flown back themselves. How are the energy?
Yeah, okay. I think it was a late night for us. I think roughly around 4 a.m. Return. Actually, maybe a bit later than that. So sleep was an issue, but I think hopefully a good night's rest for them last night, and got another sleep to go. So fingers crossed, by the time the game kicks off, we'll be okay.
What a week it's been for yourself and the players. 3 away wins in a row. When obviously away wins have been a bit of a problem throughout the season. What has that done for the confidence and moving forward into the future games? Yeah,
hopefully a lot of positives to come out the last few games, as you say. 3 away wins, which is something that it's a great return. 3 different games, 3 tough games in their own right. I think the performances have been really good. I think the individual performances of the players has been a lot stronger, and then collectively we've looked a really good team. So I've been very, very happy with how the team's functioned, how it's played, and we want to continue that good feeling.
You mentioned the individual performances there. Obviously, Anthony Gordon during the week stole the show with his 4 goals. I know you said previously that he prefers playing out on the left, but he's been really good, isn't he, at centre forward over the last few games. Is there a chance there that he could potentially do that for a more prolonged period, given he looked like he enjoyed his goals the other night and what centre forward brings? Yeah,
I think if he's playing wide, he prefers the left side to the right. I think every player has a preference on sides and positions. And you sort of listen to that because you want the player to play ideally where he's most comfortable. But I think given another preference, he'd probably prefer to play down the middle and lead the line, because I think that's what most players naturally would want to do, because you've got a lot more freedom in terms of your movement and where you can run. I think Ant's got some really good qualities in that position, none more so than his pressing intensity, but also his tactical understanding of when to do it, how to do it. I think it's at the very highest level. I think you could see the other day a couple of our goals came from his regains, and that's not by luck, that's by his really good judgment and where he puts himself. And then for the first goal that he scores, it's a brilliant piece of centre forward play. Comes in short, spins, and it's a ruthless finish. So I was delighted with this performance.
Can I just ask you one more on Anthony? I mean, 10 goals in the Champions League, it's pretty incredible, right up there amongst some of the top strikers in Europe. How good is it to see that from him this season?
That's a great thing for him. I'm really pleased because he's found goals difficult to come by in the Premier League, and sometimes these things happen and you can't quite work out why in one competition. A bit like our away form, really. It's much debated and talked about, and sometimes it's a strange thing that you can't really put a finger on why, and that will be the case for Ant. I'm sure he'll be wanting more goals in other competitions, but the Champions League is probably the one the players look to, and it inspires them the most, and it's certainly got the best out of him, and long may that continue.
Thank you. Andy?
Morning, Eddie. Just in the last 3 games, we've seen Kieran Trippier and Bruno push you towards the supporters. Sandro Tonali came and celebrated with you at Villa Park. I just want to know from you, how much does that support, both on and off the field, mean to you in the last few weeks, given it's been quite a difficult period?
Yeah, it's not something necessarily that I'm asking for, I have to say. I'm not prepping the players on that. I think it's very spontaneous. I think for me, it's always about the players, and I'm there to support them. So I take those relationships with my players, though, very seriously. I think fundamentally, for the players to perform at their best level, the relationship has to be built on trust and respect. And then hopefully we work as a partnership to bring out the very, very best in what their game has to give the team. And those players that you mentioned, I've got a great relationship with, and I want to improve my relationships with all my players at all times. And I think the only way I can do that is by working for them, and that's by helping their game. Of course, investing in the person and getting to know them. But I think I have a big responsibility to help them and be there for them in good times and bad times, and I try to be really consistent with that.
I've lost count of the number of games Newcastle have played already this season. I've lost count definitely of the number of times Newcastle have played Manchester City, with more games to come. From the long trip home, admittedly in the early hours, and from the amount of times you've played them this season, I think you've been asked this before, so I'm going to refresh it. Have you learnt anything new about Manchester City that you didn't already know?
Genuinely, I think we learned something. Not so much about them, but more about ourselves and our game going forward every time we play them. I think they have been the benchmark for a number of years in the Premier League in terms of teams that play at the very highest level consistently. So yeah, with each painful defeat that we've suffered, especially at the Etihad, I think you grow from it, and that's what we try to do. So then when we play other teams, we've tried to evolve and improve. A big mark to their consistency levels, season upon season. I think they've been very, very good, led by an outstanding manager. They continue to be the benchmark, in my opinion. I think for us, every time we've played there, we've made too many mistakes. Not massive ones. I don't think you have to make massive ones there to lose the game. But big enough mistakes to cost us the game. And I think we've been in the games. I think they're always competitive, but they've been too good for us on a number of occasions. And that's the jumping gap we've got to try and bridge this weekend.
Just finally, on the team news, how's the squad looking, I suppose, after coming back from Azerbaijan in midweek? And have you any updates on Bruno and Tino Livramento?
No massive updates on Bruno. He's in Brazil, and judging by a couple of the pictures that I see, which was great to see. It's typical Bruno. Seeing and watching the game in the chamber did make me laugh, because it's just his passion and his love for the team shining through, and we wish him well from afar. Tino's making good progress, but still I don't think we're going to shave too much time off of the early March set for him. Hopefully good news or better news on Sven Botman, where he could be in and around this game. And Louis Miley's still a little bit to go, I think.
Thank you. Simon?
Eddie, the last week, Birmingham, Baku and on to Manchester, it was probably the most brutal week of a brutal month schedule. How can everyone cope with that, with all the travel, with all the mental gymnastics you've got to do?
I think you have to. I don't think there's a choice there. So I think in some respects that necessity to recover, be at your best again, especially a sobering thought when you're playing Manchester City. I think that in itself focuses the mind to go, well, I can't look for excuses. I can't look for fatigue or any other excuse. We have to turn up and be the best version of ourselves and give everything we can to win another game. So I think the players know they have to be ready. Any dip, it will cost us.
The record at the Etihad is the record at the Etihad, but you beat them in the reverse fixture in the Premier League at St James's Park. I mean, how much does it give everyone knowing that this season's Manchester City is beatable?
I think every team we play is beatable. I think, that game gives us hope and gives us the evidence, I think, in our own brains that if we get everything right, we can win the game. Now, that's a big statement because we have to do everything right, and that means tactically, physically, right across the board. I could go on and on about what we have to do well to win the game. But the evidence is there. We've done it before, and I think that serves as a really good notice for us that if we turn up, we can do it.
The way you've played in the last few games has by necessity been slightly different. Do you think that presents an interesting tactical wrinkle for the opposition as well?
I don't know if it's been that different personally. I just think the players have played at a really, really high level, and it's great to see individuals return to their best form. I think when we have that, I think we've got some very, very good players that can cause anybody problems. So I think that's the expectation again.
Thanks, Simon. I've got to Damien, John and Dom, please.
Morning, Eddie. Those of us who are old enough will remember Alan Shearer brushing aside a young player wanting to take a penalty when he'd already scored 4. Amid the minor fuss over the penalty the other night, do you want Anthony in form, scoring goals, to have that selfish streak to his game, in inverted commas?
Yeah, I think there's really big positives to take from that incident. I mean, all moments like that get blown out of all proportion. A very minor issue. In fact, I think it was a few things to comment on it. It was great from Anthony that he's sort of got that strong enough resolve that he wants to score in every moment, and you'd want that from any player. So I've got no issue with him. I've got no issue with Kieran also trying to think of the team and trying to lead in his way and be the inspiring leader that he is in every moment. So actually that was a real positive on all sides. the good thing is we scored the penalty. So that in itself is another positive, and I think it showed that all the players care and we want to do well.
Thank you. Jordan?
Will Johan Wissel be available tomorrow?
No, I don't think he will be, but I don't think he'll be too far off maybe the Carabao game.
Just what is his injury and how did it occur?
Yeah, it was in training, a nasty little knock, but I think he'll be fine.
Thank you. Don?
Just on the back of that, Lewis Smiley was described as a dead leg. He's now been out for almost a month. Just what exactly is the issue with him?
Again, without going into too much medical stuff, which is beyond me, it was a dead leg, so that was factually correct, but I think it disturbed a bit of the muscle. So, again, I don't think he's too far away. Nothing more than a week, couple of weeks maximum. But I think we've been told that we've got to be careful with it.
Thank you. We'll go to Lee, Chris and Gary, please.
Eddie, just on Nick, he's obviously been playing in midfield. You gave away a little bit about that the other day. How happy is he here? He seems to be really fitting in with his teammates, laughing and joking, enjoying his football. Can you just give us an insight what he's like behind the scenes?
Yeah, he seems really, really happy. He seems what you see is what you get, I think, with Nick. I think he's always laughing. He's been very good in the dressing room, actually. He's built a really close friendship with Malik, which is great to see him build that strong relationship with one of his teammates. But also, I think he's well liked by the group. I think that's a really big thing for any player. I think that the guys really respect and like his personality and the fact that he's very much a team player, and he's a likeable guy. He's always, as I say, got good humour, doesn't take himself too seriously. He's one of the lads. So when I see reports or hear reports that he's not happy, that's not the player that I'm seeing. So he's looked really good on the pitch, I have to say. In the last few games, I've been really, really happy with him. He's performing at a really high level. So I don't see any issues.
Thank you. Chris?
On Nick shifting into that position sort of as a left side number 8, how has that sort of come about? Because I know you've talked previously about how little training time you have. Was that something you'd foreseen a while ago, or is that just a recent development, and how has he sort of really taken to that so quickly?
Yeah, we've done a lot of work with him in that position away from sort of the game day, as much as we can with the limited training time that we have. So yes, we're not training. When I say we're not training to the intense levels, of course, that we would one game a week, but we are turning up as we will today, and we will train. But then it's what you do in that time that's the really important thing. Nick's attitude to his work's been excellent, so we've asked him to play a slightly different role, albeit it's not a million miles from how we were playing with him as the number 9. He was coming low, he was coming deep. It's just he's slightly to one side. So I don't see a big, massive issue here. He's a player that plays better in between the lines than stretching the line. I think that's obvious. It's more the defensive work that he has to then grasp and what we ask of him off the ball. And that's where I have to say, even as a number 9 leading the line, his off-the-ball performances were really, really good. Tactically, he's a very, very intelligent player. He's obviously been well educated in his former clubs, so he took to it really quickly, and full compliment to him for doing that.
And just on that, physically, the sort of demands of that for him, how different is it from? I know you said that he drops deep, but given the extra defensive work, how different is that from?
I don't think it's that different personally. Is there slightly more physical demand? Yes, but it's slight, and I think the thing with Nick, and we noticed this straight away from working with him, he's got really good endurance levels. So his ability to run and cover long distances is actually very, very high. So yeah, I think he can do it. Of course, there's things to learn and improve and develop within his game in that position. But I think he's a versatile player.
Okay, Gary, and then Scott, please.
Hi, Eddie. It was a really nice moment the other night. Jacob Murphy scoring his first Champions League goal. He's had such a rollercoaster career here at Newcastle, longest serving player now in the squad. Can you just explain how much he's improved since you've arrived, and what's the best thing that you like about Jacob?
Yeah, he's got many qualities, Jacob. I think he's an outstanding character. He's part of our leadership group now, which I think speaks volumes for how the other players see him. So he's not necessarily a sort of an outspoken confrontational speaker as a leader. He's a very likeable person. He's very positive. Again, another really good teammate. I think you can talk to Jacob about anything. If I was a teammate of his, and he would give me really good advice and try and steer me in the right direction. He's a really good role model for the younger players. I love how level he is. He's always thinking of the team, but he's also always thinking how he can improve himself. And I think that's why he's been so successful here, under me in particular, because he's developing his game all the time. He's trying to find new ways to improve his game against fullbacks, whether that's crossing, you name it. He's looking at his game and watching his game back and trying to evolve his game and take it forward. So I've got a lot of time for players that invest that time in their careers, and you see that every day. He's one of the last off the training pitch in terms of trying to hone his skills, and then you see him score a goal like he did, and yes, it took a slight deflection, but that will be Murph working on his shooting after training, both feet. Countless times he works the goalkeepers, and I'm really, really pleased for him to get that moment, because that's a special thing, your first Champions League goal. And I'm sure different stages in his career he wouldn't have known that he would get to this point, but he fully deserves it.
Thanks, Gary. Scott, to finish, please.
Hi, Eddie. I apologise, there's going to be another one about Nick. I take your point when you say that a lot of what he's been doing hasn't necessarily been that different in the games we've seen so far. It feels like maybe on Saturday, if he was to play there against City, it might be a little bit different in that it's potentially a game where you're not going to have as much of the ball. There might be times when you're in a low block, a kind of rigid defensive shape. Is he ready to do that? Do you think he's capable of doing the job he's doing in that kind of game where you're not on the front foot necessarily as much as you have been?
It's a great question. We will see. But I'd say from what I've seen in training and the way that he's taken to the work that we've done with him, I'd say yes. Well, of course, doing that in one environment is different to doing it on match day, with the pressure and the game and everything that entails. But I wouldn't play him there if I didn't think he could do it.
Okay, thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
See you in Manchester.
Nice to see you all.
Thank you.
And there we go. Another decent presser. I mean, can I just say again? He looked very happy and jolly today. I must admit, he comes across as always very steady Eddie. Nothing too down. It's a shame again. I have to say about the injuries to Miley. It's obviously a lot worse than we initially thought with this dead leg. And again, he said he didn't want to go into too much of the medical terminology. I think he probably struggles, like I do, to say it. But I mean, again, is this protection, like I say, risk versus reward situation where, with him being so young, anything that happens to him now, especially with the growth plates and everything else, just getting to that point, doesn't want to do too much damage to him for his future type of situation. So the advice of the medical staff is just holding him back rather than trying to push him forward.
I think it speaks volumes about Eddie, isn't it? The way that, in fact, it was kind of mentioned in the presser there about how he gets to know players and he wants to help them and builds relationships with them and so on and so forth. And that's just, that would be him as the sort of father figure saying, we've got a special kid on our hands here. The last thing we want to do is overstress him.
Yeah, it's a shame. It's a shame he's not, like I say, he's still 1 or 2 weeks away by the sounds of it. And they're still working really hard on that. Nice to hear that Botman.
Let's be fair, he's not desperately needed to be rushed back, is he? Not desperately needed to be rushed back. Trippier's improvement
Just a right back
means that we don't need him to fill in there. Joe Linton's come in, that's 4 fit midfielders. So if Miley needs another game or two to come back without any risk, I think that's right.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. Right. I mean, like I said, you've just mentioned it there. The only slight concern is the fact that we are asking Trips to do, back to back games, and to get the best out of a fullback is, you've got to be at your best against Manchester City. You know, you have got to take it. And sometimes, you know, when you like the Lewis Hall, who I must admit looked absolutely dead on his feet in Karabakh, and I wanted to just note that 4 a.m. Return from Karabakh. So again, lads would be completely jaded on that return. So told to stay away and rest at home yesterday. So he'll be back on the training field for a session today. But again, as he said, the problem with these games midweek, the time on the training field, and to try and prepare players that aren't necessarily playing in the right position. And we talk about Nick Voltemada there because there was quite a few questions regarding Nick Voltemada. So I want to spend a little bit of time talking about this.
Just on what you were just saying there, Mark Atkinson in the chat is saying, I don't know how the players know if they're coming or going. Finishing at midnight their time, a 5 or 6 hour flight, and 4 hours later, another press run. Good job it's an 8 p.m. kickoff. So it's over looking on the bright side of the 8 p.m. kickoff.
Yeah, but that's what I said. I mean, I suppose that was one of the reasons for a pushback, as well as, you know, being a televised things. But for me, again, he harps on about his formation, his style of play, and pulling Nick into a left 8 position seems to be something that he isn't that bothered about. A lot of praise for Nick, and again, listening to all of a lot of the, I suppose, the comments that you say that, again, is this just clickbait stuff that we see on social media these days? But he said about he seems very happy and well liked within the squad. He's built up a great relationship with Malik Chow, which is what we expected, and he thinks he's a very tactically intelligent player. And the only, you know, question mark again was thrown at him in that low block emphasis. Could he retain the type of player that Eddie will need against the likes of Man City, who will look to gain a lot more possession? I think, you know, what I've seen, and again, it was a slight slur on Nick because he was the one that was playing the Karabakh player onside. But that's not his fault. I mean, at the end of the day, Nick Pope should have done a lot better at his near post. He tried to hold the line. And again, when you're moving and playing in a position that you're not really 100% okay with, being that centre-back at times, which he's tasked to do because of his height, I think he's done excellent. I really do. I think he's taken, from what I've seen so far, he seems to have taken to this new position like a duck to water.
And they've obviously got his metrics off him because Eddie was saying his endurance is first class and ability to cover long distances. And he said yes to that question, by the way. Can he do a lot? He said, I would say yes.
Well, he said, I wouldn't put him there if he didn't think he could do it. Right. So, and I think that is a massive pat on the back for the lad when the gaffer has that much praise for you. What do you think, Ian?
Well, I think I can see that he's doing the same role that he did when he played centre forward. He's just got more opportunity to do it 100% now because somebody else has taken the number 9 shirt. There's somebody else up there keeping the defence honest, if you like, so that he's got a little bit more time to hold that ball up and lay it off. I know when Michael and I did the match stats, match ratings, his defensive stats were really good. He surprisingly had recovered the ball several times, as well as all of the good passes into the final third and all the rest of the attacking stuff that you're hoping he's going to bring. Defensively, he was certainly holding his end up as a midfield player. So I think it's a stretch to say he's just playing exactly the same as he always did, because he was a number 9 and he had an obligation, I think, to get forward for headers, etc., into the box, which must have been a distraction if what he wants to do is drop off a little bit, control the ball and play make. But hey, that's great. If we've got a Ramsey and we've got Voltemada playmaking. That's two number 10s, number 8s, number 10s, whatever you want to call. That Bruno's had to carry that load all on his own for the rest of the season. So, and we scored 11 goals in the last 3 games.
Three games, yeah, exactly.
Is that a link? That's a correlation to me.
Absolutely, it is massive, massive one. And again, we talk about, as Wim was saying before, about the J7. When J7's on fire, it's hard to replace. But I think, with Voltemada, and I don't want to say that's going to be his new role. What I've noticed over the last few games with J7 missing, the link-up play between midfield and our forward line has been much better. There has been a little bit more movement, a little bit more control of the ball. We all questioned whether, Bruno missing, are we going to continue, to miss a player with that want of the ball to feet all of the time. And to be fair, I think with Tonali and Voltemada, and again, Willock's done okay. He's been a long staff for me. I think Willock's been like a long staff for me, and it's not all about what he does with the ball at his feet. He's mobile. He moves around the park a little bit, and sometimes, even though you've not got the ball to feet all of the time, it's difficult for oppositions to mark a mobile player. I think we have been far too static at times through that midfield. And again, I keep talking about yo-yo forwards. If you know where the forward's going to run back to, you don't have to follow him all over the field of play. And that's been our midfield sometimes for me this season. We've been very off movement situation where we are literally statues rather than, moving the 5 and 10 yards, which is what you expect. Tonali's been outstanding in a point where if you look at some of his metrics this season, he's been given the bad pass, and it's not his pass that's been the problem most of the time. It's because we've had static players to pass to. He's passed it into the space where he's expecting players to run into, and the ball's gone out of play. So, I do think this niche where we've got to point a finger at individual players as if, well, that's another bad pass. I think individually we're getting some of it right. I think as a collective, we're just not getting all of it right. And I think what Eddie's just said there, for me, hit the nail on the head, where he talks about letting a lot of the past performances be positives. There's a lot of positives in our past away wins, as you've just mentioned there. And for me, that goes where he says that everyone is beatable if we turn up. And I think that, for me, was one of those markers which we all say a lot of the times is what Newcastle's going to turn up today and play. Because I never expected 6 goals at Karabag. I thought it was going to be a lot tougher. Thought it was going to be a lot tighter than that, especially on their home turf where they do seem to want to play. I just don't think Newcastle give them the opportunity to play.
Well, I'm just over the moon with your tactical genius, because you've hit the nail on the head. You've proven to me why I think Willock's useless, and he's great for the team. He's another longie, and when he's in the team, don't know what the hell he does, but somehow we'll get results.
Yeah, like I said, sometimes movement opens up an avenue for another player to exploit, and I think sometimes we were, and I'm one of them. Like I say, I'm never going to be shy or hypocritical to say I'd never knocked Longstaff, because unfortunately with Longstaff, as I keep mentioning, Wurzel Gummidge, he did have in and out games. He was games where he was totally non-existent, where that movement wasn't there, and there was games where there was a hell of a lot of movement, and it allowed other players to exploit the situation. And for me, you've still got to have the right players to exploit those areas. And you've just said the exact thing with what we've been crying out for a long time, Ian, is the likes of Ilanga doesn't just sit out on the right-hand side. He's making a hell of a lot of diagonal runs. We're starting to see a lot more overloads on that left-hand side where Ilanga comes on that diagonal and takes the precedent, if you like. And for me, the one player that probably didn't have the best of games in Karabag was Harvey Barnes. which is surprising when you think about it, because he has probably been one of our go-to players when the time's getting tough. And to me, he was a bit
sorry to
part
interrupt, Gary.
Carry on.
You're being harsh. You're being harsh on Harvey Barnes. I mean, we were harsh on Harvey Barnes when we marked him. I think he got a very dull 6.5. But with a different goalkeeper playing, Barnes could have had his hat trick before half time, and he didn't fluff his chances. He was unfortunate in that the keeper made 2 or 3 really good saves from shots that he had, chances that he had. It just seems if he doesn't score that we are judging him by his goals, because we're not saying he's pressing hard. He does press hard. We're not saying he's putting decent crosses in, but he is good down that left with Willett, with Hall, in carrying the ball forward and either retaining it or organising to get a decent ball put across. So anyway, sorry to interrupt you. I thought I had to give a little bit of a
Slapping's jumping in on the Barnes discussion, saying Barnes is either world class or anonymous. There is no in between.
Means he either scores or he doesn't.
Yeah, and I think that is it.
Or he doesn't.
And that is my point, Ian. I mean, I'm not saying I'm not trying to belittle Barnes whatsoever, but all I'm saying is on the day, he has been our Mr. Reliable. He's the one in front of goal that's been the clinical, the best finisher, I believe, in Newcastle at the minute. And again, when you look at the way we got the goals, Anthony Gordon scored in a couple of penalties and scored in 2 in open play. People are always going to question 2 goals. Well, any professional player should score from the penalty spots. I just think sometimes when we highlight one player as the go-to to get out of jail regarding goals, and it doesn't happen because he just didn't finish on the day. What I'm trying to say is it's not a reliance on just that one. If somebody gets a poor game, and I didn't think Harvey Barnes was poor, I just think he was probably not at our best on the day. He produced what we needed to produce. He was in the back line. He was in front of the goalkeeper, as you said. On his day, could have got a hat trick. I just think sometimes he kept himself out of the game, where I think his presence on an inside situation. But again, was that the gaffer's tactic? Because, usually when you play with a player on that inside left position, J7, likes to go out onto that left-hand side. Where with Voltemada, you don't get that, situation. Voltemada likes to be central. He likes to stay within that inside left position, running on the diagonal to the centre D position. So was that another reasons why Harvey Barnes was maybe forced to stay a bit wider during these games, because of Voltemada now playing in that inside left position?
Listen, I thought Barnes first half against which game was it? Because I picked Voltemada when we did the watch along. I picked Voltemada and Barnes as the 2 standouts in the first half. Who would that have been against? What did we do? Spurs. Who would just beat it? Aston Villa, man. Aston Villa.
Alanga was fantastic in the first half against Villa, wasn't he?
Yeah.
Well, I think we're just starting to see the form now, aren't we? And I think that's the thing. That's what I keep saying. We can't just rely on one player. It has to be across the team, if you like. It has to be, Ilanga being involved in goal creation, if you like, which is where we have struggled with. We need a striker that's obviously firing, and that's why I questioned yesterday. With Wissa obviously misfiring, Voltemara not really being hot at the minute. He started really well, but his form seems to have dipped. With him now playing in this new position, does that do 2 things to the team? One, it allows, and again, I'm hoping Anthony Gordon can throw some Champions League form into the Premier League. It's something that we haven't seen yet. Fingers crossed, he should be flying at the moment, confidence-wise. And he always seems to have a decent game against Manchester City, Anthony Gordon. Not more often than not. Let me just say that, not always, more often than not. And I think, when you look at these guys now, with the emphasis now being spread across the field of play, with Elanga starting to show a bit of form, maybe the limelight ain't always going to be on Harvey Barnes. So, we've just lost Ian a little bit there. We'll
Gary's
come
disappeared.
back. Well, back.
Oh, he's back.
Hey, hello. What, did I disappear? I thought you disappeared on my screen. Anyway, let's crack on. So that was an intro. Go on, mate. I don't want to stop on you.
I was going to say one of the things you were talking about. I think they've all got a bit of a shot in the arm, confidence-wise, because of the results. But more importantly, if I'm Barnes stuck out on the left, or I'm Elanga stuck out on the right, I'm always bloody waiting for the ball to finally get moved out and us go on attack and me get it. And I just think the way we've played in the last 3 matches away from home, we've moved it forward so much more quickly. And that's that gives them a shot in the arm as well. They're moving. They're thinking, they're moving, they're finding space because they think, well, I better get on my bank now because the ball's coming to us straight away. Not, we're going to have to wait a minute and a half for them, Byrne, Hall and Botman to work it between them for it to come out to me when I'm then marked by 3 defenders.
Well,
So I just think that's what I was talking about.
with this super chat there?
Being the essence of it.
What does in with the super chat saying? Barnes is fine. Leave him alone. You're always picking on him.
Well, I think it's fine. We just defended him.
That's what I thought we were doing, to be fair.
Well, like I said, what I'm trying to say is you can't always rely on individuals like we have done in the past. He's been our get out this season with the goals that he's contributed towards, and we haven't. For me now, it's nice to see other players getting involved in goals. All I want to see now is the fact that if Anthony Gordon, and it definitely sounded like it from his presser, will be up top against Manchester City. I just want to see that continue. And I want to see the likes of Harvey Barnes and Elanga try and get behind and cause havoc at the Etihad. Let's talk about Anthony Gordon just for a second then, because he did throw a little bit of high praise again towards Anthony Gordon. Support on and off the field of play was what Anthony Gordon is being suggested. He's been one of them players for me who's, heads not turned, just going through a bad spell. There's been so many narratives thrown at this lad at this present moment in time. And for me, like I said, all that seems to be happening in the Champions League is his price is getting higher. So if he is going to go, it's going to take a wedge. Even though he's nullified all of the rumours. He just wants to concentrate on where he is at the moment. And I think all players say that. I don't think that's a get out of jail card in itself. What do you think of what Eddie Howe's doing? Obviously, he's not going to throw a player under the bus at any point. He was just really happy to see what Anthony Gordon was doing. Wynn's been talking about the press, the trigger press that Anthony Gordon provides for the team week in, week out. Even when he's out wide, he's still the one that fires that trigger press. Do you guys back Anthony Gordon staying up front?
Not permanently. Not permanently at all.
You've got to at the moment, haven't you?
But right
well,
now,
you have at the minute, yeah.
Now, it's the best option for the team.
But is it the best option for the team? As in, you've got Voltemada, who was bought as a 9. You've got J7, who's returning from injury. Do you stick with what it's a gamble against the likes of Manchester City? I mean, the question was there.
I've said till I'm blue in the face. Voltemada cannot lead a press.
Well, Eddie Howe said that.
And if you want to build a team around Voltemada, by all means do it. But that's going to take a season, 2 seasons, 3 transfer windows to do that.
Yeah. I mean, like I say, I'm not disputing it. I'm just saying it was funny how Eddie Howe said, Voltemada does not lead the forward line the same as Anthony Gordon, and I think that was a moment that struck me. Do you think that comes across as a negative towards Voltemada's gameplay? and obviously him being bought as a 9, do you think that just puts another chink against him, Ian?
No, against him. If he's performing as this 10 or this 8 more deep line, he's still in that forward player, isn't he? It is increasingly difficult to see how to accommodate him under the way we play at the moment as a 9. I mean, he's not a Chris Wood, is he?
No.
Who is clearly going to lead the line and needs the balls across for him to put his head on them. That isn't who he is. That's wasting so many of his skills. I think if we can harness his skills without having to take 2 or 3 transfer windows to build a different team around him, that's what we need to do. And I think they might have struck on something for him to play in this sort of false 9 position and have 3 fast runners moving ahead of him with some other technical players to the side. I mean, that's why we're moving so quickly, isn't it? That's why we're big difference is that we're retaining the ball really, really well. There's not as many misplaced passes out of the defence that just get picked up on the halfway line and then we're defended again. I haven't seen that in the last 3 games that much. Certainly not as much as it was beforehand. So, yeah, we use Voltemada how we can use Voltemada, and he's been really effective in the last 2 games. So, stick with it. Let's see what it's like against proper opposition tomorrow night.
Been brilliantly effective the last 3 games.
Yeah. And I say, it was good, applaud it. But like I say, he's been missing for a lot of the season, Anthony Gordon. And again, we can't just judge him on what we've seen over the last 2 games, because I hope he's turned a corner for the club. But we've got to have continuity, because, I mean, he did go on to say about he's got some really good technique in front of goal. He's got a good eye for goal and things like that. We haven't seen it when he's played up front before. Like I say, he's mistimed a lot of air shots where there was a clear opportunity to strike a ball. And yet, like I say, in the Champions League, he's literally a couple of goals behind Mbappe, putting himself on a high ceiling there. And, the question come across of him being, are you happy of him being selfish for wanting to take that second penalty? And Eddie Howe obviously totally acknowledged that there was a coming together, but said it was overhyped. There was nothing to it, and he was more like happy that there was a question mark or whether it should be him taking that other penalty. But that is his job. That's what he was tasked to do: be the penalty taker. And like I say, Anthony Gordon's just thinking of himself at the time. If he's looking for this gold boot in the Champions League, that's a good accolade and ceiling to reach, surely, as a positive for us as a club taking it forward. Because you want all these positives, don't you, for the individual players to achieve.
And by the way, and then comparing him with Mbappe, everybody's saying, yeah, but all his goals are penalties. Mbappe's three of Mbappe's goals are penalties as well. So he's got 10 from open play.
For me, I'm just really happy that we are starting to see, hopefully, a turn from the lad. And like I say, he can bring his form from Champions League into Premier League. I think that's got to be a positive for Newcastle. I'm not looking at him as an individual and praising him, because at the end of the day, it's the 11 players that create. They're the ones that hold the win together and the momentum together. You've just got to have the right player in the right position to finish, and the right player in the right position to stop the opposition. And I think one of the biggest criticisms that Eddie Howe has faced over recent weeks is the conceding of goals more than us not scoring goals. And to which he was a little bit, I say, bemused over. And again, I don't think with all the noise now about James Trafford now wanting to move to Aston Villa and things like that, I think that will be a priority for Newcastle in the summer, to get a keeper. Now, whether they stay with Ramsey as a number 2, if he's happy to do so, but go out into the market, because I don't think Pope offered us a great deal at the back.
Yeah, well, that's because you're picking on one mistake. But, if you look at the full season and the number of saves he's made that have kept us in games and won us points, I think they far outweigh the number of clangers he's dropped. And he's dropped a few, by the way.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, he has saved us at times, and that's what a keeper's there for. He's not there.
That is what he's there for.
Yeah, he's like I said. How many times have we blamed a striker for not finishing in front of goals?
Well, exactly. That's been more of our problem than the other.
Yeah, you're right. It does take a lot more pressure off the team if you're able to score. We go back to the days of Kevin Keegan. I don't mind conceding 3 as long as we score 4. But I think them days are well behind us. Them have gone now. And I think, we have to get back to a little bit of balance when it comes to being a top 4 contender. We've got to stop conceding goals if we want to be, at the top. So you do have to take risks. I understand that. And that's why I said, for me, if you've got 2 centre-backs that play, and I absolutely love watching Malik Chow now. I think he's been outstanding. I think Dan Burn gives you something different, and with Botman as well. If they're the main 3 centre-backs, with Tonali dropping in between them, being the orchestra, orchestrating the orchestra, doing everything that he needs to do, I think you've got a great balance there. I just think the problem with Newcastle at the minute is, if you notice with Nick Pope now, the risk-taking where we used to try and play from the back has more or less been eliminated from our game. It seems very much now that we go long rather than play out from the back. Unless, obviously, against Karabag, where everybody just retreated anyway. It was like Geronimo, way, get over the hill. So there wasn't a lot for him to play out of. A lot of problems there. But against Manchester City, we know Popey isn't the best with his feet, and I think that's the other issue that I'm facing with Nicky Pope.
You did say in the presser, you did say that Botman was in and around this game, and I just hope that doesn't mean that he's tempted to do what he did the last time and go with 3 centre halves, because I think that is inviting pressure on, to be honest. I think that extra man in midfield and the pace up front, we've got to go 4-3-3 or 4-2-3-1 to push City back, to work that press hard. Let's play in their half a little bit. But our eyes in front of goal, so why not? If we can be more clinical. But I remember
well, that's what Gaz and NUFC down at City. 88 is saying that was the first time. That was the first time that Gordon looked like a centre forward against Karabag. Finishing for the first goal was as good as any forward, and going round keeper for the second goal. This was the second goal in open play, and of course he was going to do the same when he was brought down. To get the second penalty. So, is he learning the craft?
Well, look, it is a different animal. I mean, Foxy's straight in there, look, and said it's not unusual thing for players to be good in Europe, but struggle in the league. Igor Jesus for Forest is the example this season. Even a Sprilla for us back in the day was better in Europe than in the Premier League.
Just get more time.
Absolutely, and that is the difference between. But for me, I mean, Connor's just thrown a question in here, and I want to throw that in because that was one of the big things for me. Is the quick turnaround. Can the team seriously go and press the same as we've done in previous away games during this quick turnaround period? Can we go again?
I say yes, we can, because we've then got
see when we start.
We've got a free hit on Wednesday, Tuesday, whenever we play Karabakh. So they've got plenty of time to turn around. Just leave it all out on the pitch on Saturday.
Yeah, I mean,
that's how we are getting our results.
Yeah, I agree. What's your thoughts, Ian?
I agree. I mean, I think I don't know what happened at Liverpool because we pressed them really well and went head for half an hour and then just completely capitulated.
Capitulated, yeah.
So I don't know if that was because they ran out of gas or if Slot did something subtle in the tactics and we just lost it. I don't want to see that happen again. But you know, we were quiet in the first part of the second half against Karabakh, and the substitutions came on, and then we were pressing hard again. Maybe with the new personnel, because it is hard to keep it up for 90 minutes, as my wife is always telling me. Let's use the substitutes at the right time. Let's bring them on after 60 minutes, not 75, and maintain the energy that we have. You know, Asula can come on and run around like to press everybody at the same time.
Yeah, like I, I wasn't at all bothered when
chaos that we need.
I wasn't at all bothered when Asula was named against Villa, because that's what the one thing he did do was run them ragged up front.
Yeah, you want to do that super chat from Wazza?
Yeah, we got Wazza in again saying if we
Thanks,
had
Wazza.
Kane, it would have been 26-0. Swap him for Walt.
Bless you. I just want to throw this up on the screen because obviously, our Dom, DX, can we give some credit to Dan Burn as well? He was excellent versus Karabakh and Villa. His assist for Gordon was fantastic. Sprung forward and the ball with the outside of the foot was the chef's kiss. I mean, like I say, I think...
Dan Beckenbauer.
Dan Beckenbauer, as Wynn calls him. I must admit, I've been, I have been very admirable since Malik Chow's come into that right centre-back position. It doesn't matter who he's playing with. It just does feel a little bit more relaxed. There seems to be a little bit more shape, a little bit more positiveness at the back. Again, are we just leaving ourselves a bit open because we push the fullbacks on a little bit too much at times? And maybe we just need to be aware of that situation, especially with the likes of Voltemada and Willock in the team. They do go into that forward 8 marker, if you like. And it does leave Tonali in the half space, sometimes a bit solo. And when you've got your 2 fullbacks alongside him, we are a little bit open in the middle at times. So it's something we have to be aware of against teams that break on us. And we've seen it, in the past where the ball over the top has sprung a break. And again, we look a little bit unsure of ourselves at times. And again, with Eddie Howe not playing with his natural 6, is that something that Newcastle need to have a look at and going for the natural 6? Or do you just think Eddie Howe is stuck in his usual way and not looking at that defensive midfielder at all, not getting a Rodri in, just waiting for the right player to land? It's going to be an interesting summer, I must admit. I wanted to just, because like I say, I am pushing at time here, but I do want to mention this last point that I've written down. I don't know whether you've got any more with, and that was about Jacob Murphy. Jacob Murphy, for his first goal in the Champions League, and I think that was, the smile on that lad's face when he was, looking at the lads in the stand, all 1,900 plus that travelled. Great turnout, and again, great noise in a very open space as well. When you got the running track, you could certainly hear the lads sing. Many qualities Eddie Howe put him down.
And you hear the Geordies sing.
A great character in and around the dressing room, trying always to involve and evolve his game. The better, always the first on, the last off the field of play. And he's a good character around younger players. He continues to try and take his game forward. Hence, his shooting. He's the one that asks the keepers to stay behind so he can practice coming in on his left foot and taking shots. And as Eddie said, it took a slight deflection. But that's not uncharacteristic of Jacob Murphy having a pop from 25 yards because that's what he trains with. Applause regarding Jacob Murphy. I think he has. Even though he's a lesser player than a lot in the Premier League, and he certainly hasn't hit the high notes as we've seen him in the last couple of seasons regarding assists. but he's certainly one that you have to give credit to for his character.
If you look at his character, he's been out of form though, hasn't he? I mean,
Absolutely.
I know he scored a good goal. It's a shame that defender got his head on it, because I think it would have gone in the top corner if he hadn't got anywhere near it, which would have been a much nicer goal for him. But yeah, he's been poor when he's come on. Misplaced passes, a lot of defensive work, helping Trippier out.
Always thinking about the team, said Eddie.
Yeah,
but still looking to improve himself. Great.
If it was really
greatly.
thinking about the team, he would ask not to be picked. Or is that
harsh?
I like it. What have you got? Anything else written down, Mighty? We've got a couple of minutes before we can say ta-ta.
Well, obviously, he was asked about the confidence that the players have taken from the last 3 results, and he says there's a lot of positives to take away that they've taken away, both individually and collectively. So he said it can only be good going forward. Where he touched on the questions he was asked about Gordon, and he said, he was delighted with him. He was asked about the way that the players, some of the players were pushing him forward to take the plaudits at Tottenham, and then Tonali celebrating with him and all that, showing their signs of commitment, if you like, to the manager, which he said in typical Eddie fashion isn't something that he's ever asked for or choreographed. And he doesn't really like it, but you can understand it.
And you wanted to say something or pinpoint something out.
Yeah, I've got one thing I wrote down when he said that Sven Botman was feeling much better and could be in and around the game. If he sticks with his 4-3-3, because he got absolutely pasted after half an hour trying to play 5 at the back, we've never seen, although he has done it before, Malik Chow as a right back. You could play Botman Burn as centre half and Malik Chow at right back. Give Trippier a little bit of a rest. Maybe change it up after an hour to bring Trippier off. But I would quite like that. Hall, Chow as the fullbacks.
Be interesting.
Chow's quite quick. Good player of the ball. Skillful technical player as well for getting past folk. I don't know. Maybe that is maybe that's something to come out of left field that will surprise Manchester City. I don't know. If Botman's fit, he's got to play Botman.
Yeah.
He never travelled or anything. He must be raring to go if his back's okay.
I mean, it is an interesting one. Like I said, for me, it's a bit of a conundrum, selection conundrum, and that can only be a good point. DX has asked us a question. I mean, it's just literally an opinion for the panel. Taking international and club careers into consideration, would you rate Harry Kane's overall career above Alan Shearer's, or vice versa?
Well, he's got one more trophy now, hasn't he, than Shearer has? But
Shearer, yeah.
Not in the Prem.
No, I mean, he's done multiple golden boots, Harry Kane. And to me, he's a bit of a different style of player. He does create a lot more for the team, I think, Harry Kane. I mean, if I was looking for a player that would evolve in today's game, I think I would go for Harry Kane. But in his day, for me, there wasn't a better finisher than Shearer.
Yeah, I was going to say, but if you're using that logic, then you say, if Shearer was playing in today's game, would he have evolved? And I'm pretty damn certain that he would have evolved.
Yeah, probably. I mean, let's look at international careers. I mean, what was it? 30 goals in 63 caps. Obviously, carried England in the Euro '96, which was an excellent tournament. He retired from international duty at 29. So, if you think Harry Kane's had a few more years to play with. I mean, Harry Kane's England's all-top goal scorer, 60-plus goals, Golden Boot at the 2018 World Cup, 2 major tournament finals. I think, if I'm honest with you, Harry Kane wins comfortably. That's my thought.
Ooh.
I hate to say it.
I would say at the moment, very difficult to split them. I couldn't choose. I'm in the last 5 minutes, I've had both of them ahead of the other. But Kane's still playing, isn't he? So
yeah, exactly. That's what I said.
By the way, from when he was written, well, I wrote him off. He looked appalling in the last tournament we had.
Yeah, it wasn't his best, was he?
Right then, dreadful, and he's totally reinvented himself, pushed himself back to the front.
Thank you ever so much, North Shields. Jeff, morning lads, positive and good performance tomorrow. Great show as always. Thanks, buddy.
Yes,
lovely to have you on board. And again, lovely to have all of you with us this morning.
Thank you, what's up, other super chats?
Yeah, thank you to my right-hand men or left-hand men, whichever way you're looking at the
apparently, Tracy has become a member, although I haven't seen it up here anyway.
Flash up, yeah. I think it was at the start. And I also saw Trolls had become a member yesterday, and I didn't mention it in the show. So thank you, one and all, for those that are supporting us.
Certainly not highlighted them.
No, thank you so much
thank
for
you,
being
Tracy,
involved.
thank you, Trolls.
Yeah, indeed. And like I say, thank you, Ian. Thank you, Mighty, for joining me this morning for the Eddie Presser.
A happy Eddie Presser.
Yeah, indeed. We'll see you tomorrow for the live watch-along kick-by-kick commentary by myself and the lads. Come and join us then. A couple of hours before we start with the build-up. Like I say, it's going to be a good one.
Hit the bell and you'll get to know half an hour before every show.
Yeah,
and
indeed.
tune in on your DAB radio. Just search your station list on DAB in Tyneside area for NUFC Talk Radio.
Yeah, and it's Jamie's going with his son for the first time. I think it is for the Etihad. So have a safe trip, buddy. I know you've travelled down there today, so have a lovely time in Manchester. But until tomorrow, it's a goodbye from them.
And that's a goodbye from them and them.
See you tomorrow. Thanks, Ian. Take care, everybody.
Away the lads.
Lasses and bands.